Have you ever heard of a king who marched with armies across deserts, carried gold that blinded the eyes of nations, and built an empire that rivaled the greatest on earth? Yet today, his name is barely remembered? This is the story of Askia the Great, the man who turned Songhai into the mightiest empire West Africa had ever known. The Niger River glistened under the hot African sun. Along its banks stood Gao, the jewel of the Songhai world, a city of traders, scholars, and warriors. For decades, its throne had been held by the fearsome Songhai Ali, the great conqueror who built Songhai into a vast empire stretching from the Sahara to the Atlantic coast. But by 1492, the empire stood on the edge of transformation. Songhai Ali had died suddenly, his body carried across the Niger in a solemn procession. His passing left behind not only a kingdom, but also a storm. His heir, Songhai Baru, was crowned, but many doubted him. Baru clung to the religious traditions of the Songhai dynasty, defying the growing tide of Islam that flowed through the empire's scholars, traders, and cities like Timbuktu and Zenith. And among those scholars and soldiers rose a man of ambition, Muhammad Touré, a general of Songhai Ali's army. History would remember him as Askia the Great. Askia had long seen Baru's weakness. Where Baru looked inward, Askia looked outward. Where Baru sought to maintain tradition, Askia dreamed of a reformed Islamic empire that would rival the greatest of the Muslim world. The clash came quickly. In 1493, at the Battle of Anfao near Gao, Askia challenged Songhai Baru for the throne. Picture it. The battlefield covered in morning mist, horses stamping nervously, spears gleaming in the sun. Baru's forces gathered in defense of the Songhai dynasty, while Askia's men, many of them Muslim clerics, traders, and warriors who believed in his vision, stood ready to fight for change. The battle was swift, fierce, and decisive. Askia's cavalry thundered across the plain, spears piercing shields, the cries of men and the clash of steel echoing across the Niger Valley. Baru's forces broke, scattering into the wilderness. The Songhai dynasty crumbled. And in that moment, under the smoke of battle, a new ruler was born. Muhammad Touré was crowned as Askia, taking the title of Askia the Great. This was not just a change of ruler, it was the dawn of a new age, one where the Songhai Empire would reach its zenith, guided by law, learning, trade, and faith. Askia was no mere warrior king. He was a reformer, a strategist, and a statesman who would shape West African history for centuries to come. But before the empire could rise, Askia needed legitimacy. He needed to prove that his rule was ordained, not only by force, but by faith. And so he looked beyond Songhai, toward the holy city of Mecca. Imagine the year 1497. Gao was alive with excitement. Along the Niger River, hundreds of soldiers, traders, and servants gathered, preparing for a journey unlike any West Africa had ever seen. Their leader, Askia Muhammad, now firmly on the throne, had resolved to undertake the Hajj to Mecca, the sacred pilgrimage of Islam. But this was no simple journey of faith. It was a statement of power. Askia did not travel lightly. He led thousands, warriors dressed in fine armor, servants carrying provisions, and scholars bearing manuscripts of Songhai wisdom. Caravans of camels bore gold dust, ivory, and gifts that would astonish even the rulers of Arabia. His entourage stretched for miles, shimmering under the desert sun. When Askia reached Cairo, the heart of the Islamic world, the city buzzed with awe. Chroniclers recorded how he showered Egypt with gold, his generosity echoing the legendary pilgrimage of Mansa Musa a century earlier. Egyptian scholars marveled at his devotion, while merchants bowed to his wealth. For Askia, this was more than piety. It was politics. He secured recognition from the Abbasid Caliph in Cairo, legitimizing his rule as a defender of Islam. Upon returning to Gaul, Askia transformed his empire. He reorganized governance, dividing Songhai into provinces ruled by trusted governors. He appointed judges trained in Islamic law, ensuring justice reached even the farthest villages. He elevated Timbuktu and Gao into centers of scholarship, where the Songhai University flourished, and manuscripts filled libraries. Trade surged. Caravans from the Sahara brought salt, horses, and textiles. In return, Songhai's gold, cola nuts, and slaves flowed north and east. The empire became a bridge between Africa and the Muslim world, its riches rivaling kingdoms across the globe. Yet, Askia was not only a builder, he remained a warrior. His armies, armed with lances and bows, patrolled the empire's vast frontiers. From the Atlantic coast to the borders of Hausaland, his banners flew high. Under Askia's rule, Songhai reached its zenith, the largest and wealthiest empire West Africa had ever known. His reign blended power with faith, ambition with wisdom. But greatness always carries a shadow. For though Askia had built an empire on law and learning, the sands of time and the ambitions of rivals would one day test its strength. But for now, though, in the glow of the late 15th century, Songhai stood unmatched, a shining empire upon the Niger, and Askia the Great its guiding star.